In this video, I'll be testing this Core Equipment 10-person straight wall cabin tent against rain. It did not rain while I was using this tent, so I had to make do with this water hose, and it looked like this. I think I'll consider this to be somewhat moderate rainfall. I did this for an hour and concentrated the rainfall on this particular wall of the tent. The Rainfly only partially covers the Core 10% tent, which is to prevent water from seeping in through the ceiling mesh. Because the roof of this tent is curved, water doesn't collect at the top and instead drips down. However, because the Rainfly is quite small, even with just light rainfall, rain does get on the window mesh, so it's best to keep the windows fully closed, or at least almost fully closed. This Core 10% tent doesn't have bathtub flooring, and the seam connecting the orange part of the tent body to the flooring is not taped or sealed, so after about 55 minutes of moderate rainfall on that side of the tent, I noticed that water started seeping in through that seam. No water seeped through the flooring though, and it was still dry after an hour of moderate rainfall. Which seams are taped and which aren't? The vertical seams on the tent body are all taped up to a certain point. The topmost horizontal seam is not taped, but that's okay because it's protected by the Rainfly anyway. The second seam from the top is not taped, but there was no leaking. The third seam from the top, which is in between the white and orange fabric of the tent, is taped. So there was no leaking here. The bottommost horizontal seam that connects the orange tent fabric and the flooring is not taped, and there was a bit of leaking through this seam. The window seams are all completely taped on all windows. The two doors have also been seam taped, and so are the two ground vents. After about 30 minutes of rainfall, I noticed that one of the doors started leaking through the zippers. It was leaking in this position, but when I shifted the zippers away to move them a little bit higher, they stopped leaking. There was also some leaking through parts of the zip, like this right here. There was no leaking from the other door. As for the fabric of the main tent body, when the 1 hour mark was up, most of the tent body was still dry. The white fabric here was still dry, and so was most of the orange fabric here. I did notice that a tiny bit of the orange fabric near the ground vent was a bit damp though. I guess probably because it was more exposed to the water. I noticed a few small holes where the guy lines are connected to the main tent body, but it is fairly high up and they have also been seam taped, so water won't leak through the holes. Overall, I felt that the Core 10-person straight wall cabin tent held up quite well over the 1 hour rain test, with minimal leaking except for one of the door's zippers. But if you find some leaking through the zippers, I recommend changing the position of the zippers and the leaking might stop. However, I think that 1 hour of moderate rainfall is about the limit for this Core 10% tent, because that's when water started to seep in through the untaped seams, and also the orange fabric around the ground vent started to dampen a bit. So I think this is a great tent for light rain, but if you're expecting many hours of moderate to heavy rain, I would recommend a different tent, or you can just waterproof this tent on your own. For a full review on this Core 10% straight wall cabin tent, or if you need to learn how to set this up, check out these two videos right here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.